I'm Bernie and I'm a carer for my husband. My husband was diagnosed with Huntington's disease in 2002, and it's a slow progressive disease, and it affects the sufferer cognitively, emotionally and physically.
My name is Ruth and I care for my son Michael, who is 12. So Michael was born with cleft palate, and that's when we started on the road, really.
My name is Vincent and I'm caring for my wife who has Alzheimer's.
About 7 years ago, my wife was working, she had a good job, and she came home one day and she said something happened to me. She says, I just couldn't remember anything for about 15 minutes. So I said, that's not good, we'll get you to the doctor. He told her she was losing her memory. And myself, I thought, well, she's just going to become forgetful, not realising the seriousness of her complaint.
The genetic counsellor said you have to condense life, and that is extremely difficult, when you're getting the shock of news like that and your whole life just turns upside down, because it's impossible to dream, it's impossible to plan, especially in the early stages when you're just so under complete and utter shock.
So Michael doesn't actually come under one particular group, because 1 minute we're dealing with the cleft palate people, then we're dealing with the hearing people. He also, only in the past 2 years, has severe sleep apnea, so now we're in a respiratory area. And when he was about, I suppose, 3, he was diagnosed with a mild, borderline to mild learning disability that we had no idea was coming either.
I realised I was a carer when my wife got slowly worse with her disease. For about the first 2 years, it was okay, but she began to forget more things and became angry, and she would wander off. I would have to lock doors, lock windows, and I would have to, when we'd go shopping, she came out of the shop one day with a packet of biscuits in her hand. But ever since then, I had to watch everything that she did, so I became a 24-hour carer then.
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't really think that I was a carer, and I'd say this is quite common amongst parents. With, I think, probably any parent of a child that's born different, the challenges aren't always immediately apparent. They kind of just keep popping up along the way. You kind of don't realise at the time that everything is going to change, a lot of it for the better. It's not just the disability that you're dealing with at the time.
I suppose one of the things that caring does is it does heighten your emotions, because you feel a lot of different emotions. The emotions that I have felt primarily would be loss and loneliness, and it can be a lifelong struggle to deal with those. Plus you have the burden of being everything for a family. You're the breadwinner, you're the carer, you're the psychologist, you are the financier, you're the clown at birthday parties. You have to be everything, and it is difficult being all things to all of the family without help.
I was finding I was getting less and less telephone calls from my friends, because, well, they've got their own life to lead. Because I had lost my social skills. They were gone. I couldn't, I would go out, but I wouldn't have anybody to go out with. I didn't have anybody to talk to. There's no friend there, But I needed to do something on my own. I needed to help myself. And that wasn't going to come in the form, like as a knock on the door. I had to do it. help. I knew I couldn't do this thing on my own. So I, somehow or another, I got in touch with CrossCare, or they got in touch with me.
When I saw the notice in my local church for cross carers, a meeting place for carers, I thought, well, I'm not a carer, that doesn't apply to me. And, you know, I kind of registered in here somewhere, but I said, I'm not a carer.
And I was basically sitting in the waiting room, and I saw a very small sign for free yoga. I really didn't think I qualified as a carer. And they go, no, you absolutely qualify for a free yoga class. I just couldn't believe it. It was just so fantastic. And that I didn't have to fall into a category for CrossCare in order to actually just go and have a cup of coffee with other carers in CrossCare.
My safe house is going into CrossCare. When you press the buzzer and you're let in the door, you just feel this is your space. Big arms of friendship and love surrounding me. The focus is on the carer. And often it's just something as simple as, you know, listening and being able to say how you feel.
And I was the one person in the room that didn't know anybody at the time. And slowly but surely I got to know their names and what they're about. In fact, I have bonded with a friend that has taken me inside CrossCare and has taken me outside CrossCare. But it doesn't end there. You're still in communication with CrossCare. You get a newsletter, and you will get you'll get a phone call, and you'll get a text to say, well, how are you, and how are things?
Because there are so many different people caring for people with so many different issues, on one hand, you can come and talk about whatever issue affects you. On the other hand, you can come along and not talk about it at all. And it's hugely important that people realise that about CrossCare. It doesn't matter who you're caring for. It doesn't matter how mild or severe. The fact that you actually are doing things outside what other people do in their day-to-day lives, in making someone else's life easier, or helping them physically or mentally and getting them to the appointments and whatever. It doesn't really matter what kind of carer you are. CrossCare, you're welcome at CrossCare.
You can cry, you can talk, but for me also you can laugh, because often as a carer people think, you know, you're not supposed to have fun, you're not supposed to enjoy yourself.
I've become more outgoing. I want to do more things, because not having an interest in sport, I have an interest in music and electronics and stuff like that, but my friendship is not with the lads, and I probably suffered for that too. So I needed something different, a different sort of an outlet, and I found it in CrossCare, and it has changed me.
You have to separate yourself sometimes from the job as carer and just come along. And that's why I think CrossCare is different, and that's why I think CrossCare in itself is an umbrella organisation for all carers, regardless of the job that they do.
The support,
The communication,
Inclusive,
solace,
the security,
caring,
my sanctuary,
and the friendship.
and fun.